So good morning, and if you're joining us online, welcome to the inaugural meeting of the Hull and East Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority.
Good morning.
The first item on the agenda is the appointment of co-chairs. So please can I have nominations for co-chairs? Please, who would you like to nominate?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Dan.
I was thinking that we might be. So we need co-chairs for today.
Today actually marks the first meeting of a mayoral combined authority, and I think that's wonderful for the region. I think it's a great step forward, and quite honestly I think that we are on a journey and there is no stopping us. So I am delighted to be the chair today of our inaugural meeting, and actually I'd like to ask Councillor Ross if he'd like to say a few words at this point as well.
Thank you. Well, I completely agree. This is a momentous occasion, and I'm pleased that we are, I'm going to use the word, finally able to do this after what's felt like a considerable amount of time getting devolution underway for the region. I think there's been something that's been called for some considerable time. There's a lot of people, many of whom are with us here today, who know what benefits devolution can bring to this region, and the fact that we've missed out on it so long. It's time that we start seeing those benefits being felt here in Hull and East Riding as well. So this does mark a momentous occasion, and it's time that we get the show on the road.
Excuse me. So, excuse me. So now what we'll do, we'll move on to appoint the vice chair for this meeting. Could I please ask for any nominations for vice chair, please? No. Thank you. That's taken. So the next matter is declarations of interest. Do members have any interest to declare?
Jay, if I can, in the interest of transparency and openness, point out that I am likely to be a candidate for the position of mayor for this particular region. I will say no more than that.
And can I also declare, as for transparency and openness, that I also am a candidate to be the mayor, and neither will I say any more on that. Excuse me. So can we move on to item number 4, minutes of the Hull and East Riding Unitary Leaders Board meeting held on the 29th of January 2025. Are members happy to receive the minutes? Yes, thank you very much. Item number 5 is adoption of the constitution and appointment of interim statutory officers and non-constituent bodies and associate members. So at this point, I will hand over to Mark Rogers and Lisa Dixon, who will take us through this one. Thank you.
Chair, I'm going to hand straight across to Lisa, if that's okay, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report before you today is to establish the governance arrangements for the new combined authority by asking the combined authority to adopt its constitution. It also recommends the political makeup of the 2 statutory committees that the combined authority is required to have: overview and scrutiny, and audit and governance, in accordance with relevant legislation. We're also looking to commence the appointment of independent persons to support the combined authority going forward in establishing and maintaining high ethical and governance standards for the authority. We're looking also to confirm the appointment of interim statutory officer roles. You will recall, Chair, that these were agreed by the leaders of the Leaders Board previously. We're also appointing to the board the chairs of Business and Skills Board as associate members of the authority, and also the Humberside Police and Crime Commissioner as a non-constituent member of the combined authority. We're also looking today to appoint a member of this board as an interim representative to Transport for the North, pending the results of the mayoral election, when a final decision will be taken on that. So, Chair, just by way of background, there's an awful lot of detail in the report, and I don't intend to go, you'll be grateful to know, page by page through the Constitution, although, you know, I'm quite happy to take any questions. The Combined Authority was established by order in February 2025, and this, together with relevant legislation, sets out the legal framework within which the Combined Authority must operate, and that has formed the basis of the Constitution that's before you today. Should point out it's a very much a living, breathing document, and we do intend to make changes and keep it under constant review as we go forward, as we can pick up on best practice and also ensure that the document is fit for purpose. I think there's two things that I would like to draw to members' attention in particular today. The Constitution itself has been subject to review by both Council's Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which has given us helpful feedback. And members, there is a paper before you which has set out those comments and the responses that we have in relation to those for your consideration. We also are aware, you probably won't be surprised with a document of this size and complexity, that there may be typographical errors through within the document, and we will be picking those up as we do a sweep through. And there is authority to me to make sure that those changes are made so that they are corrected within the document itself. And where necessary, we will report back to members, because it's really important that members are aware of any changes that we do make within the document. The other changes that I would like to draw to members' attention today, you have before you a revised Appendix 2, which sets out the political proportionality of the committees. I'd like to give thanks to my colleagues who've helped us pull together, calculate the proportionality. It's a very complex process that we do have to go through, again, established by legislation. And this ensures that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and also the Audit and Governance Committee reflects the political balance across the combined authority area. You will recall, Chair, that normally it is done across the councils for their individual meetings, but now we've come together as one combined authority for the whole area. That political proportionality is worked out across that area. Within the report that was published, the figures were calculated on the basis of political proportionality at that time. However, there has been some movement at Hull City Council on the political basis, and this does mean that there have been some changes to the seats on committees. The Liberal Democrats, one seat has been removed. The Labour group within Hull, it's proposed that 2 seats are given on Overview and Scrutiny Committee to Hull City Council, and 1 passes to East Riding Council, and the Yorkshire Party will pick up a seat on the Audit Committee rather than Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So those are the changes that have been recommended as a consequence of that political movement. And other than that, Chair, I don't intend to make any further comments, but I'm more than happy to take any comments and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments?
Thank you to all those involved in putting together what is quite a weighty tome of the Constitution, and understand the reasons for that. Clearly using experience and so on from elsewhere. I'm broadly content with what is proposed in the Constitution, taking on board the points around errors being picked up. So, just in terms of the comments from scrutiny, from the first point, so I think there's potentially a middle ground around, I think, what's been talked about, changes being made of that sort of nature. Here from scrutiny members seems to be ones that are larger than that. I think as long as there is a reference to the combined results and that changes are made, that's reasonable. It doesn't have to be there. Typos and so on don't need to be sort of agree with person might be, but there should be at least a acknowledgement to the members that those changes have been made. I think that seems reasonable. Other than that, I'm content with what's been proposed and happy to adopt this constitution.
Everybody okay to accept this constitution as written? Yes. Okay, so that's lovely, because that now allows us, now we've approved that, we have our newly appointed members to join us at the table. So that would be, could we welcome Jonathan Everson to the table, please, our Business Commissioner? Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Sadly, Jason Speedy, our Business Board Chair, and Jane Adamson, our Skills Board Chair, are unable to attend. So welcome, and we look forward to working with Jonathan. So we'll now move on to item number 6, which is the Combined Authority Budget 2024 and 2025-26. And Julian is about to brief us on this item. So Julian, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take you straight to section 5 of the report, where this is essentially proposing a budget for the current financial year. So already in March, of course, of the current financial year. So it's just a short period from the inception of the authority in February to the end of March this year. And then a budget for the coming financial year, starting on the 1st of April, the following March. At this stage, there's a number of assumptions in terms of operational expenditure for the authority. The key thing here is recognising the income streams we're expecting into the combined authority that is cited on those. And also, we set out in the report a number of funding streams that are yet to be confirmed in terms of the amount coming into the combined authority, and being aware of those as well. The cost of the mayoral elections in May 2025 is included in the budget, which is the most significant operational item at the moment. And there's also an assumption at this point in time that all support services to the combined authority will be provided by the constituent councils through a series of service level agreements. And indeed, recommendation 2 of this report has a recommendation that authority is delegated to the Chief Executive, the Monitoring Officer and the Director of Finance to enter into those service level agreements with the constituent authorities on behalf of the combined authority, the provision of those support services. Within that proposed budget, there is a contingency element of it of 250,000. That's as an interim measure. Obviously, the budget is has a degree of speculation in it at the moment, whilst we establish the authority and its arrangements properly. It is subject to ongoing review and change, and it is a sensible thing to put a contingency into that budget at the moment, given that the combined authority at the moment does not have any reserves because it's a new organisation. So the proposed budget is set out on page 295. I've included both the capital and revenue elements of that budget. You can see for the current financial year, it's just a very small operational budget whilst we establish those initial arrangements, funded from the capacity fund grant. And then you can see, moving across to the right of the page, the proposed 25-26 budget. You can see there that, including the 24-25 amount, there is over £27 million of funding coming into the authority there, including, I have included some investment income in terms of once those funds flow into the authority, I will be looking to generate some investment return before that money's spent. And you can see there's significant elements of that £2 million capacity fund, £13.4 million investment fund, £9.4 million UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and a 1.8 million consolidated active travel fund. At 5.7, I've set out there the elements in the bullet points, which are included in the devolution deal, but have not been budgeted for at this stage because they're subject to business case or the combined authorities allocation is yet to be announced, and are they expected to be received beyond 25-26, so beyond the time period of this budget. So those are set out in the bullet points. It's important you're aware of those funding streams that will come through as we move into 2025-26. I think that is the main elements of the budget, really. There's operational costs within the expenditure which are subject to change. We've included some initial amounts for staffing, but of course staffing arrangements are yet to be determined and will be subject to the Mayor's requirements, as well as operational expenditure surrounding those arrangements, members' allowances, travel, communications, etc. These are all to be firmed up, so they're estimates that we can measure costs against, but they are subject to change. I will also say, section 6, we need to have treasury management arrangements in place. So to enable that financial stability of the combined authority, as interim director of finance, I'm currently utilising my team at East Riding and Yorkshire Council to operate treasury management arrangements, and we're intending to confirm that arrangement through an SLA between the combined authority and East Riding. Essentially, the combined authority needs to set a treasury management policy, a treasury management strategy within which I can operate those arrangements. Also, a minimum revenue provision policy, which is around making provision for repayment of any borrowing that the combined authority undertakes. And although we haven't got any plans for that at the moment, it's important that policy is in place should that need arise. And that ought to be set before the start of the financial year. So what we're proposing here, and this is recommendation 3 in the report, is that the combined authority adopts East Riding and Yorkshire Council treasury management policy, treasury management strategy and MRP policy as an interim measure. And once the combined authority is fully up and running and appointed permanent strategy officers, then it can make its own arrangements in that regard. So I will finally take you to the first recommendation, which is that the combined authority approves the proposed budget for 2024-25 and 2025-26, set out in paragraph 5.6. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Julian. Has anybody got any comments? Yes.
Thank you again. Thank you for the work on this. It's good to set out an indication of the spend of the combined authority. I think that the key point for me there is around that it's subject to change.
Yeah.
And I think just in terms of any approvals that we give here today, that is referenced in the minutes when that we are approving this on this basis at the moment, but obviously it's subject to change. We can't phrase this, but whoever is the incoming mayor should actually indicate their views on the budget as well. So they're
yeah, and it's just important to make the point that future years' budgets will be subject to, it'll be a proposal for authority. So this is just to get us through to that point.
Is there any comments that you would like to make? Is everybody happy with the report? So we adopt the report as well. Okay, is that okay with everyone? Okay, thank you very much, Julian.
I want the chair, if we might just take the other 2 recommendations. There's delegations. Just to be absolutely clear, Julian. Yeah.
let's go with those. That caveat.
Yeah, we will. So we'll now go on to the appointment of the external auditor. Again, Julian, we're over to you for a briefing on that, please.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So this is a fairly straightforward report, really. the combined authority needs to appoint an external auditor under regulations to audit its published financial statements. It will need to publish financial statements for the year ending 31st of March 2025, so it is important that we make this decision now. There are essentially three options that could potentially be open to the combined authority to do this. One is go through a procurement exercise to appoint its own auditor. The second one would be to undertake a joint procurement with other bodies to appoint an auditor, or the third is to opt into the existing National Auditor Appointment Scheme, which is administered by Public Sector Audit Appointment Limited, as specified by the Secretary of State as the appointing person for local government. At the moment, 99% of all eligible bodies, so local authorities, are part of that scheme to appoint their external auditors. So it is very much recognised nationally as the go-to arrangement for appointing external auditors. Option one would be a much more laborious process and potentially would result in an adverse financial outcome, because we wouldn't be buying into the economies of scale of the national arrangement. So it would be likely to be more costly, both in terms of going through the process of determining the external auditor and then fees payable. Option two really isn't viable at this moment in time, because, as I say, 99% of local authorities are already in that national arrangement and mid-contract, so we would not have any partners to join us in looking for a joint audit procurement arrangement. So option three really is a really good option for the authority to get those arrangements in quickly, and also has the advantage of Public Sector Audit Appointments Limited will be negotiating and managing the contractual arrangements, so avoids that burden for the combined authority as well. So the recommendation is that the combined authority resolves to opt into the existing National Audit Appointment Scheme administered by Public Sector Audit Appointments Limited, and delegates authority to the Director of Finance to make the formal arrangements for opt-in with Public Sector Audit.
Thank you very much. Do I have any comments on that at all? Has anybody?
I'm happy to support the recommendations and reasons set out.
Absolutely, yeah. More than happy to support that, Julian. Thank you very much indeed. So we're all happy with that. Yeah, thank you. So we'll now go on to item number 8, which is the draft strategic skills framework. And Mark, I'm handing over to you for this one.
Thank you. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to ask Alex Bob to join us as well, please. Oh, sorry, boy. It's the benefit of not being able to answer. Welcome. I really very big instruction given players here. So the board will be well aware, I'm sure, of this being significant area of responsibility for the combined authority going forward, and it makes perfect sense, therefore, to have an interim or draft skills framework at this stage. Undoubtedly, workers may will want to cast their eyes over it and have a good think about whether it meets their manifesto commitments as well as requirements of the deal. But it's an important starting point, and I guess also just to remind everybody that we're still in the process of getting final assurance around the adult skills funding as well. So having a skills strategy at this stage makes really good sense in terms of doing that deal with the Department of Education and pupils receiving funding. But I promise to be brief.
Morning, everybody. Delighted to place this in front of you. People who are at unitary leaders in September will remember that we brought a consultation draft to the board at that point. We're now at the end of that consultation process, so we have a revised framework just in terms of kind of the key recommendations and changes from the consultation. We had an event that had about 50 people at, and then 17 responses, which included joint responses from the FE providers and other kind of groupings, so quite a good response. And there was a general feeling which I think we knew that the vision wasn't quite broad enough to encompass all the skills activity that would be covered through the Adult Skills Fund and beyond, because previous strategies had been more employability focused, and this is a wider remit for skills to include kind of learning for life as well as learning for work. So really important we broaden that vision. Other improvements include kind of widening coverage around kind of the importance of transition from young people into adult learning and work. So that has gone in, and some more important points about the linkages between different skills bodies and how we work together across Hull and East Yorkshire to make sure that the best stuff is there, and some stuff in there about making sure that we attract and retain talent, which will be absolutely critical in terms of having the people in the area that we need in order to produce the work that we need to see. So those are the key changes in the document. It is still very much a framework under which other skills activity can then happen. So the next thing the Combined Authority will see will be at the end of May. The information will come to you that is then to be submitted to the Department of Education, and that will include a strategy for the specific use of the Adult Skills Fund rather than the broader skills activity. So that is being developed now and will come at the end of May in order to be submitted by the end of May. So on a relatively tight timescale. So the recommendation today is that we adopt this skills framework as the working document going forward, that the Mayor can then look at, amend as they wish, and then that becomes our driving skills strategy for the future.
Add a couple of words. So thank you, Claire, indeed. I think whilst I've got all of our associate members around the table today, it's worth remembering that business and skills boards are going to have representation here. I think making sure we draw on the expertise and experience from both of those boards is going to be important in the further.
Present it to both of those boards.
Absolutely, yeah. And equally in mind for our constituent and I'm sure that in the kind of wider criminal justice space as well, there will be things in relation to the skills strategy. I guess the other thing I just wanted to say is this work is fantastic. It's really good that it's where it is already. And it will give whoever the mayor is the opportunity to think about what they want to build into future devolution. I would imagine that all of us are, to some extent, either underwhelmed or slightly frustrated about the extent to which governments so far have been keen to evolve priority of skills budgets. So having a strong framework now and then an agreed framework will actually help with the argument both for this combined authorities collectively to put some more pressure on government, I think, to be much more radical and ambitious around the devolution of skills funding and skills.
It's similar to the finance report, so thank you for working on this. I think that the key point is around this is a framework in a sense. This enables it to get underway, but obviously, as Mark says, whenever there's a place they'll want to shape it and guide it alongside others as well. So I think on that basis, I'm happy to adopt it here today.
Yeah, can I just say, obviously, for me, skills is one of the driving ambitions of the mayoral combined authority, and I think for us, we've got an outstanding university in our area which we need to collaborate with, and we obviously FE and also our training providers. There's a whole host of things that we will and can work on together, apprenticeships, etc. It's all in there, and to be perfectly honest, I would like to see the apprenticeship levy also devolve down to the mayoral combined authority to be able to use in its own area rather than go back to government into treasury and then we don't know what happens to it. I truly believe that we should have it here, and therefore that would be something that I think the mayor and the leaders of the councils and the chief execs can continue to lobby for, so we keep the money in our area. So I'm more than happy to accept this report as read. So is everybody happy with that? Thank you. So we're now going to, thank you very much, Claire. We're now going to item number 9, the insurance framework, and we're back to you, Mark, please.
Thank you. So maybe correct in thinking that Alex is coming to the table for this one. Again, board members, I'm sure, are completely familiar with this topic. It's been this work that's been going for a while, and it's a really important companion piece, I would say, to the Constitution, actually, because what it sets out effectively is the way the governments will work in order to give both yourselves, local partners, the public and government, assurance that money is going to be spent appropriately, transparently, and accountably. Alex.
Yes, just a few points to add then. Obviously, as the unitary leaders, you agreed that a draft assurance framework in July. Over the last 7 to 8 months, we had some discussions getting it to a finalised stage positively. MHCLG, DFE and DFT are all supportive of the draft now. So it is in front of you to approve, to ensure that projects, programmes, as they're assessed, of the assurance framework that maps out the criteria that's needed to ensure that the decisions are delivered ultimately. It's also essential to have this approved at this stage because it's a requirement to ensure the investment fund starts to flow into the today. There is a recognition that over the summer there might need to be a light touch review as the Constitution's finalised, just to ensure that
And it's fair to say it's Thursday or Friday that we got confirmation that the government is comfortable with and approving of the framework. That's right. That's yes. Yeah.
Okay. Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, likewise happy to agree to see today. I think while we want the combined authority to be doing new and different things, there is also recognition that it's still assurance for the public that that is being treated properly and in the correct manner. So I think having a framework by which the authority works that the public can see and can be checked that it's been done. But the combined authority apart from anything else as well.
Thank you, Alex. Is everybody happy? So we'll now move on to item number 10, which is the UK Shared Prosperity Fund allocations. And I've got down on my list Mark, Rogers, Claire Watson, Julian Nielsen. So there you go. There you go. Who are we having?
I'll say a few words. We've got both Claire and Julian here. So again, I think the only thing I want to do is remind you of something that you already know, which is the routing of for the next financial year. Hence the importance of actually bringing the report at this time ahead of having a mayor in post, because there is provision out there that's going to be clear what's happening with the funding. So that's why now, I guess in other circumstances, probably we might have waited till the mayor was in post in order to kind of put their view on it, but we can't afford to wait. You've also heard earlier from Julian that the allocation at least sits in the budget, so it's formally recognised in the combined authority finances at the moment. But I'm going to hand across to Claire and possibly Julian as well, just to say a little bit about how we are proposing this.
So the proposal is that we delegate the money back down to the 2 individual local authorities in order to carry on with the programmes that have been operating for the last 3 years. Because this is described as a transition year, we know there is something else coming, but it might look different for the future. That's when really the mayor or combined authority can kind of take the controlling role in how that operates. This year, because we know we have to spend the money by the end of the year, it's really critical that local authority teams can get that's going to be delivered through this as early as possible. So we're looking for a recommendation today that allows that to go forward. So the intention being the allocation is split back down to local authorities in the way that the Ministry of Community and Local Government have allocated the funding, but recognising that what that does is actually give quite a large cut in revenue funding, particularly for providing Yorkshire Council, the way the funding has been allocated, and therefore allowing the opportunity potentially to come back once the mayor is in post to ask for some additional resource investment if that's needed to deliver the East Riding of Yorkshire programme. We did get some news yesterday, right at the last minute, to say that the Rural England Prosperity Fund will also be continuing for the next year, which is very welcome. We don't know the allocation yet, but that is capital only money, so it doesn't help the revenue pressure, but it is really welcome. So there will be a kind of an additional line. We don't know whether it's coming straight to East Riding of Yorkshire Council, probably because it's only rural funding, or into the command of that's so the recommendation is at this point split the allocation back out in the way that MHCRD has intended, but then look at how we balance revenue pressures kind of moving forward into the year.
Has anybody got anything that would like to say? Are we all happy with that? Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Claire. We're happy to accept that report. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item number 11, which is the schedule of future meetings and the work programme. And Lisa, I'm going to hand over to you for this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I think it's probably important to say at this stage we're in very early stages of the new combined authority. So the next meeting that is scheduled is for the 29th of May 2025, and this is obviously after the Mayor will be in post. There are 4 items scheduled for that meeting at this stage, and I make that point because I think it's clear that the agenda is going to expand fairly rapidly as we go forward. Those items are the Adult Skills Fund Readiness Submission, Housing Brownfield Land Project Pipeline, the Hull and East Yorkshire One Public Estate Review, and a draft investment plan. And like I said, I suspect that we will be adding to that timetable, to that programme fairly rapidly now as we go forward, and also confirming dates of the meeting as the new mayor comes into post again. So that's all I've got.
Thank you very much. Is everybody happy?
That caveat is subject to change, as Peter says.
Absolutely. That actually brings us to the close of the meeting, but before I do actually close this meeting off, I want to say a huge thank you to all the officers at Hull and East Riding that not only have they been doing the day jobs, they've managed to pull together a combined authority whilst doing the day jobs, and that has been no mean feat. And as Mark Rogers alluded to earlier, we're actually ahead of the game in some respects from other authorities. So for that, honestly, thank you, thank you. I'd also like to thank the business community who have tirelessly worked for a combined authority for as long as I can remember, and even when I wasn't even a councillor, they've wanted a combined authority for this area. So huge thank you to them for constantly never giving up on us, never giving up on this area, and working with us to get us where we are today. And obviously to the people out there, our residents, we will do our best and we will work for them. And I'm just delighted to be able to sit here and say that we are now fully combined authority, and I'd like to just on that bring this meeting to an end. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.